Hey, can you hear me? I can't hear you.
Unmute my mic. Can you hear
Oh,
me?
there you go. There you go.
It's another Tuesday.
Yay,
And guess what
Tuesday.
time? It's 5.
Yeah, it's kind of a chilly Tuesday. We had such a great week. Looks like the today had a high of 52 degrees. So hey, spring is here though. Yesterday was the first day of spring.
It's spring here.
Spring has sprung.
Spring has sprung.
Yes.
Oh, watch out, girl. Don't tell me that. Because I think last week, didn't you say that you felt a little antsy or something?
I did. I did.
Yeah.
I felt like something is in the air.
Oh, wow.
I still think it's in the air.
Do you still feel that way?
I do. I really do.
Watch out
I'm
now.
happy.
Well, I want to say welcome, everybody. Today is Tuesday at 5 o'clock. And you know, the name of the show is Opinions. And my name is Katie Lowe. And
And I'm opinionated Lorie, aka Lorie Williams.
so, how was your weekend?
I had a fantastic weekend. The weather was great. I want to say it was like 70 degrees, sunny. I was
Mhm.
able to get out there and do a little bit of yard work, which is always fun, and get to see the neighbors. And yeah, I'm excited for spring to be here. What about you?
You know, nothing, just nothing went right for me the weekend. I was going to go to a wedding, and I went to my niece's house, and they had company, and it was somebody I was very, very happy to see.
Oh,
And it was just spontaneous, and we really ended up having a great time. And I didn't have a drink at all. They were drinking, girl, they were drinking some great tequila.
what?
Oh yeah, and I didn't have a drink, but
What
it
kind?
was
What kind of tequila was it?
I forgot the name of it. It's my nephew's favorite brand. He buys it all the time.
Is it
What?
Don Julio?
Oh no, no, it's
Okay.
much better than Don Julio.
Oh, this is a
Ah,
upscale. Okay, all right.
but
I see you,
I
nephew.
didn't
I
have a
see
drink,
you.
but I woke up Monday morning drunk. I guess just
Not
from
KL.
girl, just from watching, I felt like I had been drinking.
Hey, sometimes that does happen, right?
Yeah, I
Just being
mean,
in the environment.
I was so discombobulated, I couldn't get myself together.
Oh
Really,
my
I couldn't.
goodness.
But guess what? Next month we have a sponsor, all the way out of the great state of Houston, Texas.
Houston, Texas. What?
Yes,
Tell me about the sponsor.
her name is Nicole Turner, and
Okay.
Nicole Turner is the CEO of Martha's Helping Hands, which is a community service organization that advocates for the homeless.
Oh, wow.
And
What a great cause.
listen, I'm just thrilled. I'm just thrilled. Even though I didn't get her for Women's History Month, you know, she still decided that she would sponsor the show. So that is
Okay.
such a great feeling. And
Yep.
her
And
being,
we're still in Women's History Month currently, so
yeah,
that's
but she
fantastic.
won't start until April,
Okay.
sponsoring the show for 1 month. And the thing that she's a young African American female, and
Wow.
I'm just elated to have her sponsor us for a month. And who knows?
That's wonderful.
If you can get her to do it for 1 month, she may come back the next time and do it for 3. You
Yep.
can
Hey,
never
she'll
tell.
always be welcome. That's for sure.
Yes, absolutely. And then, I want to tell everybody that some people are calling him, girl, Willie Wilson. He's got so many different names. They're calling him Uncle Willie, honey.
Oh my goodness, the good Dr. Willie Wilson. And I tell you one thing, I know people are very happy to wait for that gas. And I think this time around, is it the
Is
24th? He's giving out $1 million in gas. I think the first time it was
is it
200,000.
is it only a million or is it 2 million?
I thought it
Let
was
me
1 million.
Maybe it is a million. Girls, they listen. I have to read it for myself. I don't like to repeat things that I've heard. And then I did read it was a million, but somebody told me it was 2 million.
That it was 2 million.
So
Okay.
don't
Well, hey,
believe that 2 million because when I read it, it said 1 million. But I did hear that they're looking for people to pump the gas,
okay.
volunteers.
They're definitely going to need
Yeah,
it. That's, I mean, that's $1 million. That's a lot of gas.
that's a lot of gas.
And it's a
I
lot of
surely,
locations. I want to say it's at least 10 different locations.
yeah, I could surely use some, but I'm afraid. I'm afraid.
You're afraid to pump the gas?
No, I wouldn't. I'm a,
Oh,
I'm a senior citizen, honey. I
okay.
ain't
Hey,
gonna send
but
you.
nothing stops you
I
though,
ain't gonna
KL.
sit up and I
Nothing
ain't
stops
gonna
you.
pump. Girl, they better be pumping my gas.
I know
I'm
that's
not gonna
right.
go. I am not gonna go out there, girl, as a senior. You want to get hurt? Somebody be
Oh,
done knock me down,
so
hit
what?
my
So when you say
bad
you're going to
knee.
go out there and you're afraid to go in and get some gas and
I'm
wait in
afraid to
line.
go get in the line to even get the gas. I just filled my car up. It cost me what? I think $59 to fill it up. I had a little gas already in there,
Okay.
and I used that app. What is it called? Get up something,
Oh yeah, where you get points for gas.
honey. I received almost $6 back.
Okay, and every little bit adds up.
Yes, it does. And I found that that app not only works in the in the service station, girl, in the grocery store and several other places.
Okay, so
Oh
for
yeah.
purchases or for using your credits.
Well, the thing is, I used a credit card with the gas, and the only
Okay.
reason I use the credit card because I have 18 months no interest.
Ah,
Okay,
okay.
so
And you
I
probably get
decided,
points as well for the credit on the credit card.
well, yeah, you get points on the card, plus you get that.
Okay.
I got that money back.
Oh wow.
Okay. Let me see if I can find the name of it. I lost my other phone somewhere. Hopefully it's in the car. And everybody needs to download this app. David Walker, who sent me the app, and I downloaded it, and I've been sharing it with everybody else. I don't know, it's not on this phone. It's on my other phone. It's Get Up Something. And I can't remember exactly what it is. But maybe I can go into Apple and find out what it is before the show is over because it's an app that everybody needs to get. I mean, it gave me back. I was looking, and the thing is, you can actually access this money. It's not a credit to your card,
Okay, so we're talking like cash. We can take
baby.
that and pull the money out or put it on your bank account.
Yeah.
That's and so what's the name of the app?
Okay, let me hold on. Talk for a minute. Why don't you listen? Why don't you talk about that guest that didn't show up last week?
Uh we won't put him on blast because we
But
like our guest.
I want you to talk about him because he didn't show up last week.
Well,
But
you know what?
but he's
Let
here
me do
this
that.
week.
So last week, unfortunately, our guest ran into an issue that came up, so he was not able to make it. But he is here today, and let me just I'm just going to give you a little bit of background on him. So, our guest today is Brian Hendricks, and Brian he has an illustrious 25-year plus career as a small business and consumer banker and also a financial literacy coach for major financial institutions. And he's worked for places such as Charles Schwab and also Banker Capital Group. And here's something else. You wouldn't necessarily tie finance with this other area of expertise of his, but Brian, his resume boasts a career in professional sports as an offensive coordinator, and then also a DB coach for Indianapolis Enforcers in 2012. He
What?
also served as a scout for the Chicago Slaughter in 2013, and he assisted the GM of the Chicago Slaughter in 2014 as well. And since 2015, he's presently the scout assistant for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, CFL. That's the Canadian Football League. Go Canada. I used to live in Canada, so that's near and dear to my heart. So yeah, so that is who we are going to have on the show. And let's bring him on in, KL.
Well, when he gets ready to come in, I see him backstage, but he's not ready yet. The name of the app is Get Upside. Get
Okay.
GetUpside. SIDE. And I want to tell you that it really works.
Wow.
So you need to
That is
download that.
fantastic.
You really need to download that app. They got so many apps. They said that they give you a deal, and some of them don't do anything. But this one really works. Within 48 hours, there was my savings, and I can get it in cash. I mean, I can actually tell them to put this into my bank account.
Okay, so you just take it as a credit and then just load it up
Yeah,
onto your account.
I'm trying to let it build up a little bit. Okay, Brian said he is ready.
Well, come on
So
in. So
I'm
after
gonna
that
add to the screen,
introduction,
and maybe he'll get rid of that avatar. Check him out.
hey, Brian.
Wow.
Hey, can y'all hear me?
We can hear
We
you.
wanna
And I should
see
also
you.
add, I didn't add this. We also went to high school together. So
Okay, I went
I
to high
am
school
fortunate
together.
enough to have known Brian for many, many years.
Go
Oh yeah.
Mustangs.
Go Mustangs, Downers Grove South. Woohoo.
Went to
So,
Downers Grove.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And I am going to start with you, Miss Lowe. Now, last week, I had the fortunate uh, circumstance of having a doctor's appointment. And when I got to the doctor's appointment, the first thing they told me was the doctor was running 25 minutes late.
Oh my goodness gracious.
So, and then of course, the 25 minutes actually was more like 45 minutes. So I am going to redirect that lateness animosity, friendly, loving animosity towards my doctor. I won't name her name, but I will put it in lights if it comes to it.
Okay, show your face.
Give me a second here because I just got home. It's gonna be a second, but
She ain't got number
I
10.
will be appearing. I'm gonna have to unplug my computer then.
We have nothing but time.
Nothing but time. Look at
Yeah,
that.
nothing but time. Somebody said they went to
So
White
while you
Castle.
do that, so I kind of gave you gave your bio, but I'm gonna just go ahead and just kind of tee it up again since we got you
Let
on there.
me let
So
me say this for you to tee that about.
okay.
I was talking about the Get Upside app. I'm not gonna tell you who said it, but some smart aleck, and it had to be a smart aleck.
Uh-huh.
So I went to White Castle and got gas for $6.99.
Oh my goodness gracious.
They must have ate some of them smelly bro. Woo!
Wow.
Yes.
So we have Brian Hendricks on the show, and as I mentioned before, Brian has an illustrious 25-year plus career as a small business consumer banker and also a financial literacy coach for major financial institutions such as Charles Schwab and Banker Capital Group. And in addition, as we mentioned before, in addition to his finance career, Brian's resume also boasts a career in professional sports, such as offensive coordinator, DB coach for the the Indianapolis Enforcers in 2012. He also served as a scout for Chicago Slaughter in 2013 and assisted the GM of the Chicago Slaughter in 2014. Since 2015, he's presently the scout assistant for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, CFL, the Canadian Football League. Welcome, Brian.
Welcome, 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 welcome. I'm trying to get my lighting together here, and that just made it worse.
There we go.
Turn the light on.
The light is actually on right now. That's the bad part. The light is on.
Oh no.
You give me a second. I'm gonna try one more thing here.
I don't think he wants to be seen.
Oh, I don't mind being seen. I just want to be able to be seen. If I'm gonna be seen, I want to be seen.
He wants to really go all out.
I'm just messing.
The lighting in this part of the house is not very good. I apologize. I'm in my den right now, so
okay. Well, we can see you. That's
okay. I believe you can be seen. Okay, Lorie.
So Brian, how you doing today?
Lorie. You know what? I'm going to leave the screen for a while, and I'm going to allow you to go on with the interview, and I'll be back.
That sounds good. We'll see you in a minute.
All righty, y'all go at it. I'll be back.
All right. So how's your day, Brian? How's everything?
Good. I mean, it's we're here in India. It's cold and rainy. Right now, I think you're getting some of the same over in Chicago.
We are.
So perfect weather if you're a duck, but not necessarily a human being.
So Brian, I haven't seen you in like how long has it been? It's been at least 30 years.
Yeah, I mean, somewhere in the '90s, somewhere. I left Chicago in '94, uh, and I haven't moved back. I mean, been back several times visiting, but I haven't moved back. So it had to have been somewhere around there.
Wow.
In the
I,
90s.
I'm going to venture to say that it may even been, yeah, if it was maybe 1990, actually.
Yeah, that
I
sounds
believe
about
that was
right.
it.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, because I had moved to Chicago from Downers Grove. So
You look great.
thank you. And so do you. And the funny part is like, when we're on Facebook, it seems like we've already like seen each other a million times since 1990 because we see each other posting and all of our different life experiences and events and just things that happen that we tend to put on social media. So
Right.
yeah, so it's awesome. And you know what, I was surprised to find out that you were in finance. For some reason I thought you would be like in stand-up comedy, to be perfectly honest with you.
So about that, yeah, there's two things I could never do would be investigate haunted houses or be a comedian because I'm afraid of anything that goes has the ability to go boo. So I would never want to ever be up on that stage when them Apollo tomatoes and stuff start coming at me. So
Oh my! And why do I find that hard to believe?
I would be horrified. I mean, I really am. I don't do well with large crowds unless the crowd is full of people that I know. I could work a high school reunion crowd, but not. Yeah, I've seen when a joke bombs just in a meme, so I don't want to come anywhere near something happening in real life. No, that's not
And your
that's not.
specialty is dad jokes, right?
Oh yes, yes, yes.
You take dad jokes to a whole other level.
And my son hates every single one of them.
Well, and as well he should, because that's what makes it a dad joke, right?
I've chased him around the house yelling, "Judge!" He would rather be grounded than he says, "Look, can I go to my room and without supper, please?" No, no. Listen, go. What do you call it? I mean, I do that to him consistently. So um,
Oh
he's
my.
well insulated from the ears in from listening to those, but he's got his own sense of humor that is dry and it works, and I hate when he does it because it makes me look bad.
That's awesome. And actually now kind of making a bit of a segue into just finance in general, I think you probably have to have a sense of humor nowadays, huh?
If you don't, you will lose your mind or what's left of it. It's been tumultuous, if we can say it's been. Uh, I would say that this almost rivals 2008 when we had the
Mm,
housing crash. This is just because markets are driven on confidence and security, financial security, and when I mean mental. And so when those things go by the wayside, you may say to yourself, I don't invest, so the market doesn't affect me. Yeah, it does because it affects the cost of goods, services across the board, how
mm.
much your employer can afford to pay you, depending on what industry you're in. Sometimes it's immediate, sometimes it takes some time. So markets affect everybody, whether you invest or not. So
Mm.
it's been tumultuous. I'll use that word.
Yeah, no doubt. So let me just kind of go back in time. Like I said, I thought you would end up being a comedian. You still are a comedian. You kind of do it on the side there. But how did you get started in finance of all things?
Yeah. So I was still kind of figuring out my way, what I wanted to do. And I started working a series of customer service type jobs. And one came up for Union Federal. Well, after I left Chicago, this in 2006. I'm still kind of hitting and missing at what I'm doing. And there was a bank called Union Federal Bank. It was a large local bank here in Indianapolis. And they were hiring for a phone banker. And
Mm.
it was customer service, but I'm like, I really don't know that much about banking. I really just knew how to write a check. That was about my extensive uh, in finance at the time.
Okay.
And when I interviewed, I remember Gloria, the interviewer, she said, I'm not worried about that. I'm just worried about if you know how to talk to people. If you can talk to people, you
Mm.
can do this job. So I ended up taking it, and that's where I learned, some of the basics of banking, FDIC insurance, and the way, checks and balances, the basics, real basics. That bank ended up getting bought out by Skybank, maybe a year or two into my career. That bank then was their 8-month Skybank, and they were bought up by Huntington. They were they weren't ready for what they purchased.
Wow.
So that scared me, and I ended up going to work then at Charles Schwab in 2009. That was where I got my real education on finance, the market, under the tutelage of Arisa Hurley, who was a manager. She's still there.
Oh, wow.
Incredible woman. I'm just incredible. Really encouraged me to get a little deeper than just answering the phone, but understanding what I was answering. Started answering questions for high net worth clients. Started talking, Series 7 license. I was handling pledged asset accounts, the clients, learning about margin calls. So that's really what kind of got me going to where I am now, was that milestone.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. So would you say that you kind of you just sort of kind of fell into it then?
Yeah, head first. I wasn't ready for it when I did, and then but having had to have learned those things, on the fly, and from people who had been in the industry some 10, 15, 20, 30 years. It was a baptism by fire, but it was a very slow burn. So I was able to absorb a lot of it over the years. So it made it a lot easier when I started wanting to be more challenged and advance. I had a lot behind me already.
Was there anything that sort of surprised you about, how sometimes like we hear about banking, and sometimes, let's say, you're a young person and maybe not having kind of the background in it. Were you surprised at anything that you learned?
I think the thing that caught me most by surprise was a very basic fact about banking is that whether it's a bank or whether it's a credit card company, they only make money in two ways, and that's interest and fees. And it sounds so simple. And there aren't truckloads of money being dumped off at a bank for the bankers to run around and dive in and play naked in the vault.
What do you mean that doesn't happen?
That's why I got involved. I thought that was what this was. And when I said, "Where's the vault?" and I brought my bathing suit, and they said, "This is not this." And I said, "Well," because I was still
You
getting
think you're
paid.
getting samples?
Hang on. I mean, I stuck it out, but those types of things. And so when after a couple of years back at Union Federal Bank, and they had this program called a Fresh Start program, where people would get so far behind on overdrafts and so forth that they would be $400 in the hole. They get a paycheck for $300. It gets sucked up by the
Oh my
fees.
gosh!
And I started.
This is horrible.
Yeah, and so they had this Fresh Start program, and I was part of this program where I would call people and say, "Look, we're gonna help you out here. We're not gonna take the whole $300 that you owe. Your next paycheck, we're gonna take $25, and we'll just keep you on that program till you get rebuilt." But that simple aspect really taught me about how the economy of the American people, how close it is to some people literally surviving and living and being out on the street. And there were lots of people that I saw struggling so mightily. And when we think of home ec, you and I know that home ec typically meant it was a class that we got to eat. Home economics was baking, making oven mitts. We never picked up a math book or learned anything about finance. There was not one economic thing in there other than learning how to make a pizza in the middle of your day.
And I love that. Let me just tell you, we had the best home ec class at Downs from South.
We did, but they should have renamed it to just lunch part 2. That would have been the perfect part.
Cooking and sewing. That was that was pretty much it.
Lunch, except you make it.
Right.
But that was one of the biggest surprises is that thin line between middle class and being on the street, and then the lack of education people got. You were really left to your own wits, still kind of are, but you were kind of left to your own wits when it came to finance. And if you didn't fall into a bunch of money, if you didn't grow up around it, if you didn't learn somehow to respect it, you could find yourself in a lot of trouble. Some of these people in these programs were making actually good money, but they didn't really understand the concept of putting it away for later.
They didn't have that discipline that's behind it.
Exactly.
So what would you say then? You kind of alluded to this as far as things being the same now. How would you say banking and just finance in general from like when you first started? How has it changed in like 2022 or along the way?
Everything's faster. Everything is much faster now. The internet has changed banking dramatically. There was only maybe 2 online banks that I was aware of, Affinity and I forget the other one. There were only 2 online banks that I know of. I mean, now you can't swing a dead cat on the internet without hitting an internet bank, which means higher interest rates for folks. Money moves so much faster and somewhat easier. Back in the day, our routine was Friday, you got a paycheck from work, then you took it to the bank to cash it, then you had to divvy up the cash, write your bills and so forth. And now,
or the currency exchange for
currency. If you want to pay 10% of your check, you can take the currency exchange.
I resemble that back in the day.
We all did. None of us are innocent of that one. So when now, and it kind of teaches us to have a little bit more discipline. You could write a check on a Monday back in the day, and you might have a week before that check even hits the bank.
Glorious float. Everyone loves float.
That float word. Yeah.
Right.
Actually, funny joke. When I hear that word float, I think of the movie It with the clown. He's like, yo, float too. It's got that type of evilness, like float. I get so angry when clients go, I'm gonna write this check, but I'm gonna float that bill for a while. I'm like, no, you won't. That's against the bank rules. I get livid when I hear people say because it's dangerous,
So that doesn't exist anymore. There is no more float, right?
Oh, there is. There definitely is. But it's even an electronic check will probably take 1 to 2 days to clear and hit your account. It's not the same as like the debit card we put in your PIN. You put that PIN in, and
I was going to say it's gone.
You can literally hear like the roadrunner noise from your wallet when that money takes off and you use your PIN. But I would say the speed of the way money moves and the fact that there's a lot more education available to people. You can be educated on some basic finance things by a financial literacy coach who's posted a blog. You can go online and just read things. You got to be careful because there is erroneous information out there. Please don't Google what do I invest in, because you're going to get the results are in the hundreds of thousands. And we'll probably talk about this eventually. Investing is a lot more than just saying what's going to make me money. There's so much more to it than that. We'll get into that a little bit later, but those are the main things I've noticed that have changed.
Okay. So actually, funny you should say that. Let's say I had, or a listener even has $500 that they want to invest or start investing. Like what should they do? Like let's say someone that's never invested before.
Okay. So I always say that's a loaded question because there's going to be so many areas that question can come from. If you come to me and say, Brian, I got $500, I'm going to start asking you questions. Is it your life savings? Is this all the money you have? Do you have any other buckets or vehicles that you're saving money in? You said it's their first time investing. Normally I'd ask, are you diversified at all? But that answers that if they're not. I have questions about your credit. I want to know where you are credit wise. I don't need to know your score. Just need to know, are you credit secured? If you have credit cards, what are the balances? And a lot of times I get a strange look like, why are you asking me all these questions? I just asked you about $500. The reason being.
And some black folks were like, why are you all up in my business?
That too. I was trying to be nice because we lied, but that one's a pretty common one. And actually the word is business. It's not business.
I'm sorry. I'm being bougie. Business.
Take care of that now. But when I do, people are often confused about why I'm asking, and I'm thinking, well, if this is your $500 and if the only $500 you got, and you invest that in XYZ stock, and then something financial emergency comes up, you're upside down on your credit card, you can't borrow any more money. Where are you going to go to get that $500? Right to the very stock that you just bought. Now, there's several things that are wrong with it other than just not being practical. Number one, if the stock is on the way up, you're losing any earnings that you possibly could have got. If it's down 470, you just paid $30 to put money over here and taking it back. Oh. And number three, you have taught yourself a horrible, horrible, horrible lesson about investing, and that is you're being emotional and reactional, which have no business in investing. It's supposed to be practical and wise and patient. So I always hate to break this, but when people come with a quick question, one quick answer, there are very few quick answers when it comes to investing because it's got to be a sound decision. And no financial coach, a financial consultant or advisor is going to just say, throw it over here without having what's called a suitability conversation. It's when we talk about where you are in life. Where are you, if you're $500, are you 18 years old? Are you 38? Or are you near retirement? All those answers are going to change depending on what you've got in front of you. And then now I need to know your goals. Are you looking to just make slow $500, turn it into $1,000 in a month? Or are you saying this is going to be for my retirement 30 years now? Or I'm putting this away because I got a grandson and I want to turn these shares over to him when he turns 18 years old. All of these are questions that I'm going to ask. So if you're out there and you're thinking about this, please seek a financial consultant or a coach before you just take that money and put it towards a stock and hope it grows. It's like planting seeds of a tree. You don't know what it is and hoping that a specific fruit's going to come out of it. And you have no idea. You've got to know what you're planting ahead of time. So this is the same thing. Know what you're planting before you start getting involved.
So it sounds like it's something, it's very personal depending on the individual, the life stage and all of that. And then also what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the onus should be on the individual to kind of do a little bit of research so they can understand and not kind of rely on the financial advisor as a god or someone that's going to, figure out all their financial problems.
I mean, exactly. About a year ago, you probably saw it. I actually posted some of it online. I was getting absolutely just rained on from everybody who knew I was in finance, asking me, what should I do about GameStop? Should I invest in GameStop? and I
GameStop, Nokia, that was another
and I didn't, and I told myself, I honestly, I can't tell you that. And they're like, but you're in finance. I go, yeah, but I'm not a genie. I don't have a crystal ball, and I can't say, these are what's called meme stocks, and they're not anything that when you can base performance on. It had nothing to do with the company's performance. These were some guys that were on Reddit that were driving the price up and hoping that the hedge fund guys were going to cave, and they didn't, and it kind of wavered back and forth. And I was excited. I mean, I watched the prices, and I was telling people, hey, if you probably saw my post. If you're invested, these are things to look for, and this is how they perform. But you never once saw me tell anybody to go out there and grab some while it was hot. And the reason being is because I knew hot means eventually cold. I don't like hot stocks. I like stocks that are slowly warming and getting warmer. That whistle should blow when I hit 65. I don't want something that's going nuts right now because I know it's probably not going to last. There was no research to do on this. So when you talk about personal, it's got to be personal on two levels. One, you have to have personalized goals, and two, you have to personally know where you are at, how much money you're actually bringing in, and how much is going out. These are all things that you have to have completely figured out before you start throwing money at that. As I mentioned once before, if you're going to do that, just fly down to Vegas and put it all on red. You got and probably better odds. Because the roulette wheel only got 48 numbers. The stock market's got tens of thousands of numbers, and all of them can go different ways at any time. And again, it's not going to be the same Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Every day could be a holiday or, the worst day of your life.
So now the funny thing is that I think people, when they think about investment, the first thing that comes to mind is stocks, right? Can you talk a little bit about really just other, because I mean, obviously that's not the only type of investment tool that someone could use. What are some of the really common ones?
So there's some of them are people have actually heard of already, like IRAs. People don't think about the fact that an IRA is an investment vehicle of itself, individual retirement fund for those of you listening. And there's different types of IRAs. There's traditional and Roth. So again, you want to seek a financial professional that is going to be able to tell you which one's right for you. They have different laws and regs depending on the IRS. You've got ETFs, which is exchange traded funds. And then you've got mutual funds, which are similar. I'll explain real quick. I'll ask you a question, actually, then the listeners might understand this.
Okay.
If you're in a basket and you've got a hot air balloon up here, and it's one hot air balloon and it pops, what happens to the basket?
That's a good question. I think it's going to float.
Well, if gravity serves us properly, then yes, it will fall if the bubble pops. But if you're in that same basket and you've got 9 balloons up there and one of them pops, what happens?
Oh, you'll stay in the air.
Exactly. So mutual funds are designed that way. They're a collection of stocks that are typically like in an industry like gold or maybe communication or something like that. And there's a fund manager that actually keeps an eye on all of them. When one of them starts to fail, their job is to replace it with something else that will keep that basket in the air. So now you're paying a fee for this, but a mutual fund it's a typically much safer investment than it is just a stock where, if XYZ company's CEO gets caught with, a lady of the night in his car and his wife covers him,
that would ever happen.
Pretty bad. But if you've got something, again, a fund manager that's watching that, you've got a better chance. Then there's an ETF, which is an exchange traded fund, very similar to a collection of stocks. However, there's no management, a fund manager on that. You're managing that. And you're managing it by how the ETF performs. You can buy it and sell it like a regular stock. So it performs very similar to a stock, but it's also a collection of different stocks in a bucket, if you will.
So is it, here's a question about the ETF. Is it, would you say like an algorithm that kind of, even though there's not a person that manages it, the algorithm kind of looks at if something is performing particularly well or something like that, or?
Yes. So now I don't do a lot of recommendation. By the way, folks, anything that I say is not considered advice. I should have started off with that. None of this is considered advice. An ETF, I did advise some clients before to consider ETFs back when our gas prices were, oh gosh, it seems like 1,000 years ago. Remember gas was like $2 a gallon. And maybe
that was like in the 70s, wasn't it? No.
Yeah, it was. I think it was. No, actually, no. It was.
It feels like it.
Yeah, but just a year or two ago, when the price was low, I told people to consider looking at oil ETFs. An oil ETF would be like an oil drilling company, and then someone who has the actual equipment, then maybe a mining company or in a gas station or things like that. They're all stocks collected in the same industry.
Okay.
So the stock is going to mimic what that particular commodity is doing, more than likely, depending on how it's put together. So if people got in then, the oil ETFs are doing rather well now because the price has gone up. So does that answer your question as far as how the ETF performs?
Yeah, that's a very, very good explanation, because I know it seems like now you really, one of my sisters used to work for a mutual fund company, and that was back in like the 80s, early 90s, and I know that mutual funds were really popular, but now we're starting to hear about ETFs and all that. But no, thank you for that explanation. So let me ask you a question then. What would you say are some of the kind of myths out there on investing, and like how do you dispel those myths?
How much time do you got? The myths are almost endless. One of them I hear a lot, or I heard a lot. I don't hear it as much, but I know people do it. They say something like, I trade penny stocks just so I can learn the market, which is absolutely, you cannot learn the market trading penny stocks. And the reason why you can't, first of all, penny stock or
I was just going to ask you, what is a penny stock?
So it's a pink sheet. It's a stock that's not traded on one of the larger marks, like on the NASDAQ or something. It's not traded there. So these are companies that haven't necessarily been vetted by the SEC, we don't really know much about them. So there's no real regulatory agency that's come to them and said, hey, I need to know how many employees you have, how much money you made last year, those types of things, which means you're relying on the information that the company themselves puts on their website or what's out there.
Ooh, that sounds risky.
This is the mentality of somebody walking to you up on the street saying, hey, if you give me $100, I will make it 150. I promise to come back. You can trust me. My first name is on my shirt. And you give them the money and stand on the street corner and wait for your money to come back.
Hey, that happened to me when I first moved to Chicago from living in the suburbs. On the L train, someone playing the shell game gave them $20, and then I tried to win my $20 back and lost 40.
I got a question.
Lorie.
I got a question on those investments.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I was just sitting up here thinking while listening. Since credit card companies make such great interest rates on their, on credit cards, can we invest in credit card companies?
If the company's gone public, yes, there are some publicly traded credit card companies. Now, because you asked the question the way you did, if I name any credit card company, that's going to be considered advice, which I could lose many of my licensing, so I can't. But I can send you some links after the show or later on tonight that will have some ideas of which ones that I know of that could be publicly traded and you could invest in. Good question.
Because they make credit card companies make a lot of interest. And in most states, they're not regulated. I think down in Arkansas, I think they can't go over like maybe 8%. But in a lot of states, their interest rates are anywhere from, 17 to 21 or 23. So we know that they're racking up interest rates. So I just thought, if you invest in a credit card company, you're guaranteed to make some kind of money.
Well, that's a loaded response.
Yeah, you got to be careful with the.
Let me say this.
Okay.
When it comes to the Dow or the market, there is no such thing as the word guaranteed. That no matter what it is, nothing is guaranteed. If you've ever looked at a 10-year spread on any stock, no matter how successful it's been, I don't care what it is, I can confidently say that every single one of them has a dip somewhere. It'll be going up and up and up, and then it comes down, going up and up and up, comes down. Every one of them, and those are ones that perform well. So, and if you happen to get in at the top of a crater and it goes down, and then a lot of people do. They see something that's kind of performing pretty well. We talked about the meme stocks earlier. They get in when everything's hot, and then they invest and they sit there and they watch the stock ticker and then they watch it and they're looking for it to explode and they want their computer to just yell out, "You're rich! You invested at the right time. It's Monday. It was Monday when you invested. It's Thursday, and now you're a millionaire." That is incredibly unlikely. So you see, I get a little passionate when I hear that.
Because it's like these movies, though. It's like I think people, I remember like back in the 80s and the 90s, you have some of these Hollywood movies that make it seem so sexy, with the stock market and trading and all these highs and lows. And then you had the day traders, I think back in the early 2000s. So it was a thing. And
still on.
Was that?
Day traders are still around. I actually did it with Tesla about a year ago. And I made a lot of money at it. But that's a whole nother segment, day trading. But they're definitely still around.
They're still around. So let me ask you another question, because we're I knew that this hour was going to go by very quickly because it's such an interesting subject. But so can you describe to our audience and to myself, because I'll admit that I really conceptually don't understand cryptocurrency. Like, what is it? And really, what is it? Because I know you can't give advice on it, but.
So it's not one of my areas of expertise, and the reason being is because I stay very far away from it. The company I work for does not trade in it.
Okay.
It's what blockchain technology, and so it's kind of hard to explain without a chart for me. But basically, you're talking about
just high level.
Yeah, it's virtual money. It's not an investment that is in like a commodity like corn, wheat, or a company or something like that.
Okay.
So you're basically betting on the trends of the cryptocurrency. None of it is actually held specifically like cash, although it can be converted. The issues that I have with it is that it's not regulated. So because it's not regulated, and don't get me wrong, we've all seen people make millions of dollars with it, and I don't ever dispute that. I'm an old school banker. I'm kind of like Warren Buffett, where I'm just like, that stuff is because anything that's not regulated. I know people try to get away from regulation when it comes to banks, but the issue that you're going to have with it is, number one, finding a lot of ways to move it, because there are some banks that are now coming towards it more than before, probably a lot more than before.
I think you have all these sort of trading houses. You have like, Robinhood and even Cash App.
But you have some banks that are getting interested. You do have some banks that are getting interested in crypto, because I bank with Bank of America, and they have sent me surveys asking, what did I think about it? And I heard these surveys are going around, not only from Bank of America, from Chase and other banks too.
So they probably have customers that are inquiring, but I think that, the regulators are just, it's very kind of nerve-wracking.
Well, I can share a little insight to the Bank of America piece. I do happen to know for a fact that there was a town hall meeting with Bank of America where a banker, an employee of Bank of America, actually asked that specific question not long ago. And that's what started the ball rolling on, should we get involved with this? And Bank of America itself can't trade crypto because they're not an SEC regulatory house. Okay. But Bank of America works with Merrill and Merrill Edge, who does. So that's their partner. So if Bank of America can come with this large survey that says, hey, 40% of our clients want us to start supporting this, Merrill's going to start saying, well, if this is going to be lucrative for us and we can get some protection, we'll do it. But here's the issue. Because it's not regulated, if Merrill or any firm decides, hey, we're going to let our clients start moving back and forth. If you think about when you use your credit card, right, and it gets frauded. Let's say there's $500 of credit card fraud. What do you do in that instance?
Call your bank, and then they give you the money back, usually after they do an investigation, of course.
Typically, because that is a regulated body. So they're going to give you your money up front. But if you're talking a non-regulated body, well, you know what they're going to tell you if you say you lost your $500? I feel the worst for you. Next, there's nothing they can do there, because first of all, the virtual wallet is they get hacked quite regularly, lots of times. There's no back to it. So that's what makes it a riskier investment, is that if something goes wrong, nobody's on your side but you. That's my biggest issue.
And all the scammers are using it too. I remember, what's that on Netflix? There was that show about this guy. He was a romance scammer, and I believe that people were sending him, Bitcoin and different things like that. And just, when these victims are trying to get their money back, obviously, even just regular money is hard to get back. But with Bitcoin and any of this cryptocurrency, it's not even traceable. So they have no idea what happened to that. So that's what really frightens me, is just like all the scammers that are out there and what
there was a gentleman that just a few months ago, I don't know the amount, I know it was in the millions. He got locked out of his coin purse or whatever.
Out of his wallet,
and there was no customer service number to call. There was no IT that could help him.
Oh, God.
He literally just lost access to millions. Yeah. I think he did end up getting
that's frightening. That's very frightening.
You get that wallet, they give you a passcode, and they tell you to take the passcode that they give you, to take it and secure it. And they tell you, if you lose it, that there's no way that they can, they can't go in there and send you a link.
Game over.
It's almost worse than like putting money under your mattress.
It's much worse
because when it's gone, it's gone.
It's much worse, because this is like putting money in your mattress, coming home, and then your mattress is gone. So,
or on fire.
Yeah. So now you're checking Uncle Pete's TV. But yeah, so I mean that's why I stay away from even the conversation if I can. I'll do the light education on it, but it's one of the few things I will tell clients: unless you really have money that you do not care if you lose all of it. I mean, I understand that the market is risky. This is literally like a roller coaster with no guardrails
to the 10th power.
And when they build a roller coaster, they have the regulatory bodies to make sure it's safe. No one was watching when they do this stuff. So,
oh my goodness,
it makes me a little nervous.
Wow. So, what would you say? And I know you can't give advice, but let's say for it's somewhat the beginning of the year, 2022. What would you say are the top 3 must-do kind of financial moves for the year, given the turbulence of the markets and all of that?
Well, number one, I mean, you named one of them, was learn about the different investment vehicles other than stocks. And I listed IRAs, ETFs, mutual funds, bonds, which are very safe, pledged asset accounts. Again, I'll go into more detail some other time. Maybe I'll come back. We'll go over what these are.
Please do.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Or REITs, which are real estate investments. A lot of people think when you think real estate, you can only buy real estate. There's something called REITs, which are actually pieces of the companies that do the real estate. So when you buy real estate, you have to manage it. You have to go out there, look at it. With this, you're just buying a piece of it. It's kind of like the ETF, where it's a collection of different real estates. So it's a very safe way to get in and get out. Some of them are long-term, some are short. Again, we have that suitability conversation. I'd say number one, learn about the different investment vehicles so you know which one is right for you and right for your plan that you've made. I also see try to keep up on the news, the regular news. We talked about the meme stocks. So one of the things I know I helped a client with, he was asking, give me some advice without giving me advice, which is what they say. And this was back in February. I said, well, okay, what's going on in the world today? And at this time, the Ukraine situation was just kind of building. And I said, okay, I want
that's been a disaster.
I said, I want you to consider a company called Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin, who then looks him up, and I said, okay, what do they make? He says, oh, looks like they make military grade planes and wow, jets. Yeah, okay. Who are their customers? Well, it looks like, oh, wow, they have over 50 different countries. They're allies to the United States. And Lockheed Martin is a contractor, which means that if you are a country, you need jets, you're going to come over here and buy. You can buy them from them. Their stock has gone up. I think it's almost 70% since February. So
70%.
I believe that. Don't quote me, but I know it's nearly at one point nearly double.
Wow.
So, and again, that's not someone who knows everything about stocks. He just watched the news, figured, okay, if war is coming, then this would be a smart financial move. I've got clients also, they'll say, I won't do it. My conscience won't let me do that because if it's one of our allies attacking one that we don't, an innocent country, and I get that, that's your attack of conscience, but I'm a finance guy, not a psychiatrist. So I'll just tell you where the money is at.
So some people have a moral, their moral compass does not allow for them to just invest in anything.
Yes. And the last thing I'd say is think about how fast you want to run this race. And that makes a big difference. If you think about something, what I call a stair-step revenue, think about a utility company, right? Think about your gas company, electric company, or whatever. What happens to your electric bill or gas bill every year?
It goes up, except for there actually was a decrease in the gas bill after it went up this year, but typically it goes up.
Typically goes up.
Yeah.
Now it's not great. It's not sexy, right? It goes up maybe $5, $10, $15. But if you use the same amount of gas, electric in 1 year and use the same next year, the price is going to be higher. There is no buy one, get one free. Electric is 50% off this month, or buy now. That doesn't happen with the utility companies.
Right.
So what that means for the back end is that even though you're only paying $5, $10, tens of thousands of other customers are also paying $5 to $10. They're still in the transportation business of moving the utility power or commodity from one place to another. Their costs are probably not going up as much as yours are, but the company's made a lot of money. So what you're going to probably see, and again, no guarantees, but you're probably going to see ABC Electric Company stock just kind of do like this every year. So if you've got that stock, chances are that's the company that you're more than likely, not advice, more than likely going to throw some money at. Get that quarterly balance sheet. See you made a couple $1,000s, ball it up, shred it, and not think about it. Don't go back and touch it no matter what, even if it goes down for a month or something, because you know that, hey, their prices are going to continuously go up, so I'm not going anywhere. I'll play with some money elsewhere. And with 2022, again, keep revisiting your financial plan. Please don't get comfortable. The plan you make in January, I guarantee, is not the same one that it is now because of what's happened. And it's going to change again between now and December. So constantly update this. If you have a financial consultant or advisor, continue to talk to them when they call you. Please don't ignore that phone call. Most of the time, they're trying to tell you about something that's coming. You might think that you're abreast of it, and that's their job. So if they're trying to reach you and readjust your financial plan, please, by all means, be open to change, because the world is not going to wait for you.
Pick up that phone. Don't send it to voicemail.
No.
So here's a final question that I have. And I'm asking you to pull out your crystal ball. Are we headed for a recession this year by December?
Boy. So the short answer, yes, in my opinion. I don't have any inside information. The short answer is yes, but recession can mean a lot of things, and it depends on how hard it hits. And a recession doesn't have to be a kaboom market crash, right? A recession can be gradual over a period of years.
So it's not the Great Recession like we experienced in 2008. You're not predicting that.
I think we're kind of seeing some of it now. I do think that there's going to be a little bit worse. I'll be honest, my biggest fear is what is happening in Russia and Ukraine right now. I don't see it ending anytime soon because of the mastermind who is behind the wheel of this whole situation, that how he shall remain nameless. But he is putting us in a very difficult situation right now.
I like how you did that.
And so there's a lot of different ways this could play out. I don't think too many of them are good. Very few financial analysts have a very rosy picture because of this. We were headed towards one. And then again,
this kind of solidifies it.
Yeah, this makes sure that the road's going to be bumpy. That's why I was kind of harping on, if your FA or FC calls you, please, by all means, more than likely, I mean, that's our job, to watch these things and try to head them off at the pass. I've got a news station on 24/7 that I'm constantly listening for, not only for my clients but for my own portfolio. You know, there's things I'm worried about that are there. I've got investments in things that were not hinged on. They're not warproof. And I've seen things that have nothing to do with that conflict take a beating. Some of my mutual funds have taken severe beatings based on things they're connected to, that was connected to something else that was connected to what's going on over there. And
something like a domino effect.
It absolutely is. And I've had to restructure my portfolio 3 times since February.
Wow.
And some of it was just to keep not even to make money. It was to stop the bleeding in a couple of areas.
Loss mitigation.
Right. So when we talked about that stair-step value, now is not the time to look and bumble up and throw. You better be looking and checking and seeing what areas are declining and try to head those off the pass. If you can't, call somebody. I'm glad to take emails from folks. If they do have some basic questions, I'll be glad to give out an email address and answer as much as I possibly can.
And I was just gonna, because we're heading up against the 6:00 hour. How can people reach you if they want to reach out to you, Brian?
So it'll be Brian Hendrick with no S 44@gmail.com, and then put the name of this show in the subject line and then your question below that.
Okay, fantastic. And thank you so much for your time, Brian. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
While we have you on here, let's get a commitment to when you'll be back.
Oh, goodness. Well, okay. That is like the market.
We have the month of April, May, or June. So let's get a commitment.
Okay.
And let us know when you are available to come back, because this is very important. It's something that I want you to touch down on. I want you to tell people how important that it is that they get out of those currency exchanges, cashing them checks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
That's yeah. That
I
that will
want
be a
you to
great.
talk about that because I still know a lot of people that go to the currency exchange and cash their checks,
Yeah.
and that should be obsolete. They should stop that.
I could have an entire show on that alone.
Well, that sounds fantastic. Well, Brian, thank you so much. It was so enlightening and just I mean, great seeing you first of all, and then just really interesting. Thank you for coming to the show, and yeah, definitely we're gonna set up that show. Talk a little bit about kind of a financial education and all that. I would just
Absolutely,
be
absolutely.
pleased to do that.
Yeah,
This is
absolutely.
something. This is something the platform could do in 2022 for our people and for anyone. Okay,
Yep.
because I
Exactly.
mean, you have someone here, a financial literacy coach, that can teach them how to get in touch with their finances, how to take their finances and make them useful.
And I
Because
just
a
want
lot of people don't know.
I want to throw two links out there, Yahoo Finance and Reuters.com. These are excellent sources for your listeners to go to look up financial news in the market, in the world. There's different spots where they have world news, here at home, and then finance. And they're all tied together. What's happening in the world markets affect the U.S. markets just as well. So I'd
So
like
you
to
said
read
Reuters and Yahoo. Well, so
yeah,
we'll put that in the show links,
Yeah.
in addition to your email
yeah.
address, so people can, on Facebook, go back and contact you and contact those links as well.
Sounds good, ladies. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you so
All
much,
right,
Brian.
you're quite welcome.
All
Before
right.
we leave the show, I believe it's on the 24th of this month. Today is the 22nd. Willie Wilson, Dr. Willie Wilson, is going to be giving away additional gas. And I did get an inbox because they're looking for people, I guess, to volunteer to pump the gas.
Want to pump some gas, Brian?
When would this be?
This is it's what this is March 24th.
Yep. So in what, 2 more days?
In 2 more days.
I do.
So listen,
I'm
I
booked.
hope I hope this radio station they get mad, but I'm gonna put their number out because this is where they ask if you want to pump some gas. Write this number down: 708-223-8953. That's the number to Intellectual Radio. You call that number and tell them that you would like to volunteer to pump some gas. And
We'll put that in
evidently,
the show links as well. So
yeah, we are. Evidently, they have some kind of connection with Dr. Willie Wilson, who's looking for those volunteers. I ain't got no connection with nobody. So, call my friends over at Intellectual Radio, 708-223-8953, and tell them that you are available to volunteer and pump some gas. Okay? And we thank you so much. This has been Opinions right here on Facebook Live, YouTube, and Spreaker. You can listen to us on most listening apps. And we will see you next Tuesday at 5 o'clock because this is Opinions. And remember, opinions are like assholes. Everybody got
everybody
one.
has one.
Bye bye, y'all.